Well, a great welcome to everybody to the third episode today that I'm going to present about a corporate approach to substance abuse and addiction with special reference to alcohol abuse that we're going to focus on, and I'm looking forward to having you here this webinar today, where I'm going to focus on episode 3, where we're going to talk about the aspect of the line manager. Those of you that are managers, what can you do to address substance abuse? You are on the first line of defense. You work directly with the employer, direct contact, and what is it that you can do when you have a person in the workplace that has an alcohol problem? So what we're going to do this webinar this afternoon, we're going to focus on 2 aspects. Number 1, the role of line managers, and then secondly, the task of the line managers when we need to address substance abuse related matters. So let's first start with the role of line managers in addressing substance abuse. And what is your role? I would like to focus on a few essential points to highlight what is the role of the supervisor or the line manager. First of all, you've got a role to support and to advocate. You need to provide the support to the affected employee while advocating for their well-being and recovery. And already you can see the way we approach this matter is in a very positive and helpful way, not in a punitive way, not in a judgmental way, not in a threatening way. We want to support the person towards their well-being and recovery. And secondly, what we do is you're going to be the observer and the reporter. You're going to monitor the situation of the person affected by alcohol abuse, and you're going to document the person's behavior and also document the performance issues that may be related to the alcohol abuse or substance abuse. The next role that you're going to fulfill has got to do with a policy enforcer. You're going to ensure the adherence to company policies and procedures regarding the substance abuse matter that we have at hand here. And the next role you're going to fulfill is to be the mediator and the communicator in this case. You facilitate the communication between the employee, the affected employee, HR, and other relevant parties. Okay, that's the role in broad terms. But what I would like to share with you now, before we can dive into the how we're going to be able to help this person, I need you to understand the different stages of change in alcohol abuse treatment. So there are different stages that I would like to highlight today, starting with the pre-contemplation stage, contemplation, preparation, the action stage, then moving on to the maintenance stage, and then finally the relapse stage if the person is not maintaining their sobriety. And I would like to stand still at each of these stages of change and to see where the line manager, where the supervisor fits in this whole process. And the first thing that we're going to focus on here this afternoon is on the area of pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation. So, pre-contemplation, what happens here? The person, the affected employee, is in denial. The person insists that drinking is not a problem at all. And when you're going to confront the person, obviously there's going to be a lot of resistance. The person may even reject any suggestion that alcohol abuse is a challenge in their life, and they then think they don't need any help. No change therefore is necessary in their mindset. In other words, it's a state of total unawareness. They're not recognizing the consequences of their drinking behavior on their health, not realizing the effect on it on their relationships and their overall health. In this stage, the person is totally ignorant, unaware, and if you're going to approach the person in this stage, you're going to definitely find a lot of resistance. Then the next stage of the helping process towards change is contemplation. Now what has happened? You have spoken to the person, there's been a motivational interviewing setup that's been arranged, and now there's an awareness. The person perhaps may be acknowledging that alcohol may be harmful to them. They may be acknowledging it, but there is ambivalence. At this stage, there's a feeling that they have to be torn between the perceived benefits of drinking versus the desire to change. It's like a scale, and to which side will the scale be tipping? And they're going to weigh the pros and the cons during this stage when we address the problem. They're going to think about the positive and the negative aspects of drinking, and also the benefits of quitting. So it's a whole tipping of the scale towards this side and that side the whole time. And during this contemplation stage, there's a lot of uncertainty. The person may feel very, very pressurized, and this is huge conflict during the stage of contemplation that we see. Then following the stage of contemplation is what we see now, preparation. After you had the confrontational, motivational viewing session with the person, now we enter the stage of preparation. And during preparation, there's an intention to act. The person has decided to stop drinking or to cut down their drinking significantly during this stage. And what's going to happen now? We need to strike the iron while it's hot, and we're going to enter the stage of planning now to develop a concrete plan for change, which may include seeking for professional help, setting the goals, and identifying any kind of trigger situations that's causing the person to drink. And what is also important during this stage is to apply small steps. By taking initial steps towards change, that's a brave step that they're taking, and such as reducing the alcohol intake or talking to a healthcare provider. So this is a very promising stage where the person feels ready to talk, and we are now looking at moving on towards the action stage. The action stage is implementation. Now during implementation, we're going to follow through with the change plan, such as attending therapy sessions, joining support groups, or perhaps participating in a rehab program. Will it be an inpatient program? Will it be an outpatient program? What kind of treatment are we talking here about during the action stage? And during this stage, we want to see behavior change. So there's an active process of helping the person to avoid alcohol and developing new and healthier habits. During this stage, it can vary from 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and even longer, depending on the severity of the person's alcohol or substance abuse problem. And During this stage, it's also very important to activate the support system of the person. And here we're going to engage with supportive friends, the family, colleagues, other professionals, to form a kind of a circle around this person and to maintain motivation and accountability. And that's very important for going forward to prevent the relapse, that we're going to help the person during this stage with the necessary support. Especially if the treatment is going to take place on an outpatient basis, we need to make very, very sure how the support system in the community, in the friend circle, family, the church, anyone who can play a significant role in the support of this person and to help the person to become more accountable towards them during this action stage. Then, when the person is more or less completed with the treatment program, the person has completed the treatment program, and now they are going into the maintenance stage. And now sustained change is so important. Continuing to avoid alcohol and to reinforce new and positive behaviors is now very important. What they've learned during the treatment program, all the coping strategies, they need to apply it, and they have to utilize strategies to deal with the cravings and the triggers, such as stress management, distress tolerance techniques, and very, very healthy lifestyle choices that they need to make. And also, once again, relying on ongoing support from therapy, aftercare support, like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, or any kind of support groups that exist in the communities. If maintenance is not well maintained, guess what is going to happen? Relapsing. Very important here is to help the person in the recovery to be aware of the relapse warning signs, because these relapse warning signs start to slowly appear, because we don't see relapse as the moment when a person starts to drink alcohol again. That's the consequences of the relapse. So what needs to happen here is we need to be aware of the various relapse warning signs. It's a process, in other words. Relapse is a process. And we need to acknowledge that when the person is about to relapse, that there needs to be a relapse intervention process. And we need to also understand what are the triggers that's causing the relapsing. Then what happens? When a person has now relapsed, they are once again entering into the relapse cycle. Back to square one now. And now they are basically starting where they have stopped, where they re-enter the relapse cycle. Now they're actually returning to the contemplation or the preparation stages. And now we need to start again to reassess the whole situation, to adjust the change plan that is necessary. And we don't necessarily see a relapse as a negative situation or a negative event. Out of this relapsing, there are many lessons to be learned. We want to help the person to get up and to stand up, to use the experience of relapsing to strengthen future attempts, therefore to help them to maintain sobriety. So let's have a look at these different stages that I've just shared with you now, starting with pre-contemplation, contemplation, and then also preparation and action and maintenance, and then the relapse that I've just spoke about now. It will help you to enable you as a manager to tailor your support and your interventions according to the employee's current mindset and readiness for change. So that's very important when it comes to the pre-contemplation. So for employees in a pre-contemplation stage, gentle encouragement and raising awareness is so crucial. We're not going to ambush the person, we're not going to attack the person or judge the person. We're just going to help the person, encourage them, uplifting them, and to raise the awareness, as I just said. And that will benefit them more in terms of the active support that we're going to give them and the practical strategies that they're going to receive. Okay, it's also important to remember that the journey through these stages is often non-linear. In other words, it doesn't just go so smoothly as I just showed you with the cycle. The progress sometimes goes along with setbacks and continuous learning experiences, very important as being part of this recovery process. And by providing the knowledge and the support at each stage is so important. And here the line managers comes in very, very handy and helpful. And we can play a significant role to enhance the employees' chances of achieving and maintaining the sobriety that they really need. All the help that is necessary to give to them. Okay, so here are the 6 stages. What I would like to also share with you in this section is to just look at the task. Now that you have a great understanding of these 6 stages, let's just see how you as a line manager or supervisor can position yourself in this whole process of these 6 stages. So now I want you to keep in mind the whole time these 6 stages. Going back to the pre-contemplation stage, here you're going to have to be aware of the common signs of alcohol and substance abuse. And remember, in episode 2 we spoke about that in detail. Just want to refresh your memory. We spoke about frequent absenteeism, unexplained injuries, declining performance, mood swings, or even just the smell of alcohol. Very important that you as a supervisor, line manager, need to be aware of the recognizing the signs. And here you're going to be very observant, and you're going to have to document everything in order to help. Keep detailed records of incidents, because that's going to be your data, your ammunition. Changes in the person's performance, because that we need to reflect back to the person, the absenteeism that you have observed. Any other observed behavior that suggests alcohol issues that needs to be documented, because on the day of your interview, all of these information needs to be mirrored back to the person. Apart from observation and documentation, you need to prepare for such a conversation, because it could be a tough one, especially if the person is not in the contemplation stage yet. Your task is going to be to help the person to the transition from pre-contemplation to contemplation. And here you're going to be ready, because you've gathered the documentation and now you plan the meeting. And you're going to need to do it for the first time in private. Please don't do an ambush method here. It's going to be very embarrassing, and the person may just reject everything. Maybe the best one is for the first time, do it alone, private, and have a very well structured session at a neutral location where you can ensure confidentiality and comfort. Now, let's look at when you have this conversation, this initial conversation. What's it going to look like? It's going to be non-confrontational. It's going to be to discuss the observed issues that you have and say, I'm glad that you're here today, John. There's something that I would like to discuss with you that I'm very concerned about. So you prepare for the meeting by reviewing the documents and all the incidents. You are ready, well prepared. And the way you're going to come across is with empathy, focusing on their well-being. You're going to say, John, I'm really concerned about you. I care about you. You've been a hard worker. You've been a loyal employee, a valuable member of this team. So what you do, you focus on their well-being and performance, and we're not going to make any accusation. You're not going to do any attacks. It's going to backfire. I promise you it's going to backfire. And therefore, your preparation and your style is crucial, the way you're going to do it. And also, when you conduct the conversation, it's going to be in a supportive and a non-judgmental tone. You're going to focus only on the observed behaviors. You're not going to make wild hearsay accusations, but you also, what you're going to do, you say, John, I see you've been coming late lately, and I'm very concerned about it because it really has an impact on the team, and I see you are also shaking lately, and I'm very worried about your performance, and I'm also concerned about your mood swings. And on that day when you turned up late, and on that day you had an argument with that and that person, you are very, very specific in terms of describing the person's behavior. But simultaneously also going to say, John, I'm offering you support here. I'm here to help you. We're on your side here. Although we offer support, we can express our concern, and we are very concerned about your well-being, John. But after this session, you're going to have to take action to refer John to the resources available. You can't just leave it there. Now you need to make him aware of the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, any counseling, rehabilitation services that is available. So now we help the person to move from pre-contemplation to contemplation, and maybe we need to have a follow-up session to help the person to move from contemplation towards planning. And here we're going to inform the employee about the company's resources available and encouraging them to seek for help. And there we offer assistance in assessing these resources if needed. I think that's also important, that you as a line manager, supervisor, be aware of the services that is available at your company. Very important is that you're going to also collaborate with your HR in this sense. You're going to work closely with Human Resources Department to ensure proper and discreet handling of the situation, and the HRs can also help the employee to get a plan of action, ensuring that any interventions are in line with the company's policies and also the legal requirements in this whole situation. Then remember, you as the line manager, supervisor, has got a relationship. There's a relationship of trust. You're working together. So you play a very crucial role in this whole process. What is also necessary is to monitor and follow up after this conversation. If you're not going to do anything else about it, it could easily just fade away. Everything could be forgotten and the person carries on normally. So what you're going to do, you're going to continuously monitor the employee's progress, and you're going to provide ongoing support. And maybe it's good to schedule regular check-ins with the employee and discuss their progress and any ongoing support they might need. Hey John, I'm checking up on you today. How's things going? Have you seen HR, and what's the plan of action? Is there anything I can do to help? And maybe in this case to adjust the work responsibilities if necessary to accommodate their recovery. What about, for instance, if the person needs to go to a rehab and there's many concerns about job security and delegating certain tasks that might be necessary to implement. And ultimately, you also need to be aware of your company's policies here, to keep it in mind. And why I'm saying you as a line manager is going to play a huge role, because many times the troubled employee might see HR as threatening. And that's where you're going to play this mediator role to help the person, to support the person. But in the broader context of your company's policies and procedures that you need to keep in mind, and to ensure that all actions that you do are compliant with your company's laws and regulations, and in particular confidentiality. Can you imagine what will happen when a gossip will just go in the workplace? That could have serious repercussions. Regarding company's policies, I'd like to also say keep detailed records for the future. Everything needs to be recorded. Document everything during the conversation and thereafter to make sure everything is well documented. And then you may even need to provide later on information to the EAP for the necessary feedback to them and what their role will be and any kind of support that you might need to play during this process. And keep in mind that in this process, if the person is not going to a rehabilitation center, then you might need to reassess the person's work responsibilities, adjust where necessary, and schedule to support their recovery. And you're going to be very closely monitoring this person. There's like a circle of concerned people around them, and they're going to be there around that person. It's like a very tight circle until the person is now getting better and better, and we see the person is in good state of recovery. And I'm talking here about the early stage of recovery. The early recovery stage, you get the different stages of recovery: the early stage, the middle stage, and the late stage of recovery. And here, after 2 years of total abstinence, we are talking about the maintenance phase that a person is going through. So this is a journey that we go with the concerned troubled employee. It's a journey of commitment, it's a journey of care, it's a journey of showing really that you care so much for this person that you're willing to go the extra mile. I once worked at a company. Whenever the person is then confronted, they will send the person to rehab. After the rehab, the person comes back being subjected to a disciplinary hearing and then dismissed. Now, the consequences of that company's approach is they do not want to come forward for help. So they just stay away from HR because of that approach. You can't just do it for the first time when a person comes forward. The person is now being referred to rehab, and when the person comes back, that is a devastating blow. So let's rather work differently. And the first line of defense is really to have the supervisor, line manager, well trained to help the person in this loving and kind, supportive way, instead of an ambush approach that could really cause so much devastation. Remember, we work here with alcoholism that we see from a medical point of view as an illness, it's a disease. And this is a lifelong chronic condition that needs to be monitored. So, in conclusion, I want to say today, I want to plead with my listeners and my viewers today not to follow a punitive approach from start. It's a gentle approach, but it's a firm approach. It's an approach where all the concerned people in this process are joining hands. And this is the way how we're going to help this person on the road towards recovery. And when you follow these principles, then you can play a powerful role in the person's recovery stage.